Goddamn Democrats turning the subs gay.
Definitely not our podcast.
Godzilla fucked up Tokyo because he's going to a Tinder date with a man.
There are good movies and there are great movies. Neither of those are what we watch because this is shitty cinema. Shitty cinema is our therapy because we love movies and hate ourselves. We are four friends who wade through dollar store bargain bins for the best movies to make fun of based on our theme for the month. I'm Jay, and I'm joined by Dave.
Hello.
Casey. And Juice. Oh. Casey, what's going on in this episode?
Well, this month is Unholy Matrimony, where we take two things that sometimes should never be together. Think Alien vs. Predator, High School Music, gangbangs, Freddy Got Fingered. You know, I'm pretty sure that's a movie.
Walking down the aisle into one beautiful film.
Just gorgeous capitalism. So this week I've brought King Kong vs. Godzilla from 1962, directed by not Eric Bana. Someone else, but it's not Eric Bana.
It is 90 minutes of King Kong versus Godzilla.
Do we? Nope, it's not.
It's like
they don't
20
meet for an
minutes of King
hour.
Kong
Yeah.
versus
It's 30
Godzilla.
minutes. It's 30 minutes hard. Do we know who directed this?
It was originally directed.
Ben-Hur?
No, it had a Japanese director, but John Beck is the American who bought it.
John Beck.
And then he chopped it apart and spliced it back together and added a bunch of other stuff. We'll talk about it later.
It might be important, but yeah, we did watch
he's-
the English version.
Yeah, we watched the English version of King Kong versus Godzilla, which is not the same movie as the Japanese version. Before we get into King Kong versus Godzilla, Casey, you have to give us an elevator pitch. So you have woken up this morning to discover that you're now about 15 stories tall.
Sweet.
Yeah, you've got a vicious berry habit.
Oh,
And you haven't
I already do. That's no stress.
you haven't
It's no
had
stretch.
you haven't had your juice this morning, so you're a little upset.
I'm upset. I'm constipated. I need my narco berries.
You've climbed to the top of a building and you are awaiting your daily airdrop of scissor juice.
It's spray, you ignorant slut.
All of this has a context for the film, I promise. In the 10 seconds before your juice comes in for you and you finally get to take a power nap, what did we just watch?
Every hometown bar skank fight gets acted out in 1960s Japan by a person in a lizard suit and a person in a monkey suit.
8 seconds.
That was scarily accurate.
You put a lot of detail into that. I was impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think that's what the people who
scissor
made this
hasn't
film
kicked in
wanted
yet.
you to get out of this.
It's also a makeup setting spray, so while I'm unconscious for 3 hours, I still look good. You know what I mean? It's important for a giant monster.
All right, maybe it's important that we provide some context to some of the ridiculous things that have been said. I don't know.
What fucking kind of context are you gonna give here? King Kong versus Godzilla. The movie's fucking over.
Oh
Right,
my
so-
God, it's so
okay.
deep. Jay, lay it on.
Let me go over the movie that Shitty Cinema watched. 1962's King Kong versus Godzilla is very painfully 60s. It's very painfully 60s. We open up with some great title cards, and we get a news-ish scene that is going to narrate us through parts of the movie. These are the parts that are clearly cut in.
Most of the movie, but okay.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
this Walter Cronkite looking motherfucker that
It's a Don Draper drunk guy, but go on. This guy's fucking hammered. Sorry, go on, Jay.
Everyone's on the hunt for a monster, and we know who this is. This is our favorite green lizard, Godzilla. Love it, love it. And so on the hunt for Godzilla, a Japanese sub slams into an iceberg and boom, out pops Godzilla, right? We got some glaciers crumbling.
He's a fucking lizard bath bomb ready to fuck your shit up.
On the flip side, we also learn that there is this island, Fallon Island, I believe it is.
Faroe Island.
Faroe Island. See, not Jimmy.
Pharaoh like Mia Pharaoh?
Like Mia Farrow, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Faroe Island. And on Faroe Island, there are these Aboriginal people, and they worship the dark god.
Is that what they actually called him?
I don't know. They called him some kind of god. I wasn't paying that much of attention.
Okay, good.
Right, this story,
Yeah.
you'll notice that there's no real, we're not going to give you any character names because the only two characters that matter are Godzilla and King Kong. And if you
We
don't know who they
already
are, I'm
named
not-
them, you guys. Pay
Yeah.
attention.
Right, we named them. I'm not sure who this is for if
And
you
it
don't
was-
know who those characters are.
It was painfully obvious that it was King Kong, so I just replaced every time they said dark god or whatever with King Kong because
We've got a
obviously
huge
we know.
Amish following, and they
like
just
I have a ticket
listen
that
to the
says King
pictures.
Kong versus Godzilla. You don't need to build up secret suspense around this.
So this big pharmaceutical company, right, realizes that there's this giant monster monkey on this island, and also they learn that there is a magic berry. And by magic berry, it's basically a non-addictive opioid is what they say.
Yeah, just like
yeah.
they said in the 90s.
They
I'm
said,
sure.
yeah, right.
I'm
They're like,
sure.
it's non-habit
Yeah,
forming. Anyway, it's this abundant drug that they have that these Aboriginal people mash up and make into a scissor for said King Kong. The pharmaceutical company goes, yeah. Instead of going after this awesome berry that obviously would make us tons of money, we want the monster.
Yeah, let's get into the big monkey game.
So this is quote unquote the plot. Yeah, getting into their ape state.
We need to diversify.
So Big Pharma goes to Faroe Island to capture King Kong. We learn that the Aboriginal people there worship him. We get some fun song and dance. And then, lo and behold, Big Pharma captures King Kong.
Yeah.
I don't have a noise for that. I'm sorry.
Why don't
No,
you?
well, sort of. King Kong gets drunk on narcoberry juice and passes out, and Pharma just takes him.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Like,
right.
There was no big plan. They just caught him drunk. And
Yeah. Regardless, at this point, we cut back to our newsreel, and they bring on an important doctor figure who proclaims that essentially King Kong and Godzilla have to fight, which I guess duh, because that's the name of the movie, but also it's just expository.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, guy.
Yeah, that's what everybody's hoping for. So Big Pharma's taking King Kong back to Japan. The military shows up, says don't do it, but then King Kong escapes and approaches Japan, where Godzilla's been doing Godzilla shit. And finally, King Kong makes it to the island and faces off for the first time with Godzilla, which is a really kind of limp battle. And King Kong runs away.
Yep, they throw some things and shoot at fire at each other, and then they're like, "Oh, my nipples are on fire. Let's go."
It was one of the not best points of this, but we did have some good fighting before that. We'll talk about that. After King Kong runs away, he ends up going rogue on the military and capturing a woman, just like in the movie.
Well, of course.
And they have to use rockets filled with the berries, the magic berries, to mist him down to pass him out so they can strap a bunch of balloons to him, lift him up into the air, and then pull him with helicopters back to a fight with Godzilla again.
Disney has no originality, and Up stole this fucking movie. It's the same movie, you guys. Just watch
Yeah,
it.
just with more prehistoric dinosaurs that shoot lasers. So King Kong wakes up. We get a face-off with Godzilla. We get some back and forth. Godzilla's on top. King Kong's on top. Who's going to win? Nobody knows.
Godzilla.
Tons of damage. I mean, right. Can we, for the record here?
For the
we're
Vegas
just-
odds, obviously Godzilla
okay,
Give
every
it to
time.
me.
Here's what happens. So Godzilla and King Kong, after a back and forth battle, King Kong gets powered up. They end up rolling off into the ocean, and then we know that King Kong swims away. We don't see Godzilla, right? So it's implied that it's a draw. But I think, in the interest of shitty cinema, we need to right now declare a victor. And if it's going to be King Kong versus Godzilla, Dave, who wins?
Like putting this
Right,
movie
yeah,
aside
not this movie.
and just
Who wins?
Oh, Godzilla.
Godzilla.
Juice.
God fucking Zilla.
Because
damn.
it's Godzilla.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. All right. Thank you. And that, though, is the end. That is the movie that Shitty Cinema watched.
It was a really bad movie.
No,
Don't you?
No.
You shut your mouth.
Nope. It was a good movie.
I'm with Juice on this one. It was at times the right kind of bad, but it was bad.
Not
Yeah.
the right part of our podcast.
Listen, where else are you going to get two grown-ass men drunk as fuck in hot rubber suits blindly wrestling around because none of their masks have holes for breathing or holes for seeing?
Like several dozen movies from Japan in the same period, and all of the Power Rangers series.
Yeah, but this is
Yes.
Godzilla, and it's fucking awesome.
All right, here's my complaint. One of my favorite things about, in particular, the Godzilla series, but also King Kong movies, is the futile attempts at humanity to strike back at these things, where the military is fighting back, and you see that being just swept aside. And we got one great scene of that in this movie where the tiny little tanks are getting caught on fire, and it's clearly remote control cars, but whatever. That was great.
And the other three that just backed back into the base like, nope, fuck this, goodbye.
Right. But the only time we didn't really get any good ones with King Kong like that, and then the rest of it was just two guys in rubber suits that are at, like, sure, they're dancing around Lego models, but they're clearly at the same scale.
King Kong picked up a train, bitch, and stole a lady.
There are some great moments in this film. And
Godzilla shoots a goddamn fucking helicopter with his atomic breath. It's beautiful.
There are so many movies he does that, though.
It's beautiful every time.
Most movies with his name in it.
It touches me, Dave.
It's like a baby being born.
It really is.
Flower blooming.
It really is.
And there are some great scenes in this movie. Part of one of the reasons I struggle with it is that the movie spends a lot of time cutting back to a newsroom pointing at maps. And it's really damn slow at times.
The guy gets drunker and drunker
out the film.
Like, he is just must be eating those berries like candy. They've been on his secretary's desk for a week, and he's almost out.
And the 1960s was really obsessed with telecommunications. They just thought it was brilliant because it was at the time, probably. I don't know. I don't know shit about history. But I assume that's why they were so excited.
I don't remember.
And then you just keep drinking. You're like, I can talk to people across the world in real time.
I can drunk dial someone who doesn't even speak
English.
English.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take off from that pivot. Get back to King Kong versus Godzilla.
A lot of King Kong versus Godzilla was miniatures getting destroyed, Dave. Godzilla, the first thing we see is Godzilla exploding out of an iceberg because they had to destroy a miniature iceberg.
No, the first thing we see is numerous maps.
Well,
Godzilla doesn't burst out of the iceberg till like 20 minutes in.
I'm talking about miniatures getting smashed. We're on the topic of miniatures. You're straying.
I'm waving my... I almost said flipper at Dave.
I did love that when the iceberg gets smashed and we see Godzilla inside of it, he's not frozen inside of it. There's this cavity in there, and he turns to camera like you just pulled back the shower curtain on him.
I am wearing my underwear, sir.
No, he was buck fucking naked, and he couldn't even find his pants before he left. He was just walking around naked. That's why he's pissed.
Is this what you want? Okay. All right, I'll come out and fucking play naked.
I saw it more like a Robin Hood Men in Tights scenario where he's actually just on the toilet. And it got ripped open.
Excuse me, a little privacy, please.
Occupied.
I don't think we should undersell the miniatures that get destroyed in the one battle Godzilla does have with the military. Because that is a great... We have miniature tanks and helicopters, guys shooting at him. And, Godzilla just fucking trucks right through it all.
Yeah, we see a solid $150 worth of Warhammer figures just melted here.
It's fantastic.
That was 1960s prices.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I was also going to say for the 60s, I got to side with Jay on this one. When I put myself in the thought of the day and era... This was amazing. This scene was epic.
Thank you, right? This is my childhood. This is how I couldn't afford Warhammer, so this is what I loved. I just watched this, and then I wanted to reenact this. I would get, like, Godzilla figs, right? And
I had an epiphany while watching this because I also remember loving watching this as a child because this is our generation's YouTube unboxing videos of watching other people play with toys. That's all this movie is.
Basically,
It's a newscast and other people playing with toys. But they don't have their hands showing, so it's magical.
Magic toys.
Basically, yeah. It's what I imagined I would want to do.
Yeah,
I want to throw firecrackers at people in suits. That's great.
Or the scene when Godzilla and King Kong went tumbling down a hill while fighting, and it was clearly just a King Kong and Godzilla toy that they threw down a hill and zoomed in on.
That's called working on a budget, Dave. This movie was made for $15,000. Well,
no,
okay,
it was not.
So John, the English version specifically, John Beck spent $15,000 buying the rights to, cutting some of it in.
He bought the rights, and then he spent $15,500 spending 3 days shooting the whole newscaster sequence, which I believe is important. I think you watched him get drunk in real time.
I did watch him get drunk in
You
real
watched
time.
this guy over a long weekend getting progressively drunker.
$1,000 of that $15,000 was just scotch. That's
Yeah.
all. That's all.
So
that was the scotch budget.
He shot this weird newscaster framing device where everybody's pointing at maps and talking to camera. He reshuffled the entire movie. He replaced the soundtrack with a bunch of shit from the bottom of Universal Studios barrel.
It was fantastic. I'm not going to lie.
There was stuff from Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, just all over the place. Oh, yeah. And just footage from another fucking movie.
Yeah, he destroys. We get a miniature destruction of a village from a totally different movie.
Yeah,
why not?
that happened in this one, but
Yeah.
the scene from Japan he didn't think was bad enough, so he just took footage from another movie and put it in this one.
This is perfect shitty cinema.
It's like a surprise.
It is.
He's gonna.
He also changed the ending to where King Kong and Godzilla roll into the ocean. In the Japanese version, it's not as explosive. There's not earthquakes and mudslides and all that kind of stuff. And in this one, he wanted it to be more dramatic. So
Yeah, in the original Godzilla movies, at some point, both guys just tend to turn around and walk away. And that's the end of the fight.
I just done here enough.
I think they roll into the water,
Yeah,
but it's
I
more
think I'm
casual.
sobering up. I'm gonna go home. My wife's probably pissed.
That was awesome.
Listen, the toys were great, but I think the special effects topped the toys because this was borderline Fritz Lang level. This is not a miniature. This is a real earthquake. Tidal waves, fires, train accidents.
Okay. We also got a quote unquote television that was a picture taped to
a black piece of
a
felt.
black piece of foam
It was foam. Give them some credit.
with a frame around it.
Yeah, no, they did the thing.
This is a TV.
They did the thing where they'd printed out the first frame of the next
Yep.
scene and put it on the TV so that they could zoom into it and then just cut to the next
Line
scene.
it up.
Wow, ours in this. There's so many special effects in this movie that are just, look what we can do.
I'm impressed though, because I don't know how to do that without Googling it.
Separate business proposal for the table. You know how they have those like anger rooms where you can go in and smash stuff for an
Yeah.
hourly rate?
Yeah.
That, but with kaiju suits. You get to put on a big
Make
Godzilla
it
suit
so.
and then go into a room with a tiny miniature city.
Copyright that.
And just smash around
Copyright
for an
that.
hour.
He let Elon Musk snap a flamethrower.
I would spend a lot of money to do that.
I'll be your first
I'm
customer.
not gonna lie to you.
The security guards all have like Pacific Rim mecha suits if anybody gets drunk on power. You know what I did love in King Kong vs. Godzilla? This amazing ass dub.
Yes.
Oh my god. This is the shining star of shitty dubs.
What was your favorite scene, Dave?
The extended sequence talking about a man's foot corns.
So,
6
see,
lines of dialogue to this man's foot corns. My corns always hurt when we're near monsters. My corns are never wrong.
oh,
never
my
used-
corns are flaring up. We must be near something.
Have you never
Shut
used
up
the corn
about your
dividing
corns.
method?
Like they clearly just watched the thing on mute and
Yes, Dave
did a shitty lip
postulated
reading. It's so good.
it was a phonetical reading, aligned writing of this movie.
They do a pretty decent job sometimes of matching up.
Sometimes.
Barely. I mean, no, I think your brain was starting to get conditioned to how bad it was so that when they were close, you couldn't tell.
It
I
was-
really think that watching these films growing up has prevented me from being able to read people's lips because I'm the only person at work that can't roll me. I'm sorry, you either have to yell it across the room or come whispering in my ear because I cannot. And I think it's watching hours upon hours of these films that I just have the ear to brain eye disconnect.
I also can't read lips.
We're fucking terrible together.
And I also watched a bunch of these movies growing up.
Yeah, it's because you watch a lot of foreign films. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys need to get into some sort of fucking therapy group or something here.
So are you telling me that Godzilla is what caused autism in the 80s?
Probably.
Oh my God.
I assume so.
why. Godzilla causes
Don't-
vaccines.
That is
Godzilla
okay.
causes vaccines.
Also not our podcast.
Okay.
My favorite personally, and I think we need to make a gif out of this. There is a scene where the head of the pharma corporation is really
Dr.
upset
Taco.
about something. Dr. Taco.
His
sure.
name is Dr. Taco.
Sure.
That's real.
The head of the pharma. None of the names really fucking matter.
I
in this
remembered
movie.
that one.
It's not a face palm. He starts with a face palm. He brings it all the way around to the back of his head.
Uh-huh.
Brings it back around to the front from the side so that he can then swipe himself across the face. He's gathering up all the sweat on his face right now.
Pika!
The-
What did he yell? He yelled something at us.
It was a
Oh,
No
I
way.
have it written. No. No more.
No more.
there you
That
go.
was it.
Got it. Nice,
I'm
Case.
so glad I wrote that down. That was important.
Well
I knew
done.
it would be. Thank
Well
you.
done.
Or the shot of a Japanese woman clearly making some small kind of like like
Oh, but the
Yeah.
scream is.
but the dub over it would have put any scream queen to shame. It was some Tarzan shit.
Juice, tell me something you love about the dubs.
The submarine scene.
The submarine scene.
I think it was the first scene. It set the tone of, oh, these people are really, really not in sync. And, it's an intense moment. Things are blowing up. They crashed. Apparently, they crashed just driving.
Yeah, they-
really bad submarine drivers.
They just weren't watching where they were going.
Yeah, you just drive your
Whoops.
submarine into an iceberg. That's how it
Didn't mean
works.
to do that.
Where the
But
fuck are the windows on this thing?
I don't know if it's
Backup
just
cam?
the actors that were in it. They did not seem, worried at all. But the voices sounded like this is a dire moment.
The voices sold it. You're right. Everybody on screen was like, "Oh shit, got an fender bender."
Got some of those fucking narco berries.
As soon as the cops show up, they're gonna dump our narco berries and send us home to our dad's house. Weird.
I also just thought about this looking back on that scene. But in the submarine, there were like 8 bureaucrat-looking dudes in suits and ties.
They
Yeah.
were scientists.
There were only like 2 military-looking guys. I think it takes more than 2 people to drive a submarine.
Takes two, baby.
Casey, what was your favorite dub?
It's okay. They're all smoking now. When 2 scientists pass out cigarettes to a bunch of people on an island,
Uh-huh.
and a 4-year-old kid walks up to and does the gimme sign, and,
And
they
he's like,
kind of
I don't
stop.
have any food. I'm sorry.
He's like, "Oh, we forgot to bring candy."
Candy. It was candy.
It was candy.
And then they look at each other like, "Well, he's really insistent." And they give him 2. They give him 1 for each hand.
His mom steals one back, though.
Oh, he's like, "Don't let your mom see you smoke this." And she steals one. And they
lights
all
it up.
start
Yeah.
smoking.
Yeah, they all light it up.
We've already discussed, though, they were all eating the non-addictive, quote-unquote, narco berries.
Non-habit forming
Right.
narco berry
Listen.
Vicodin.
You get some narco berries, right? And then you got to have a cigarette afterwards.
Of course.
That was one of my other favorite lines in this movie was, it's a non-habit forming narcotic, but the natives don't seem to want to give it up.
Oh, shit.
I wonder why.
Probably because it makes them feel good.
I just want to say the first half of this fucking movie has more song and dance and squid than any High School Musical movie
Oh God, the
in my
octopus.
life.
Oh, we didn't
Oh,
talk
you're right,
about the
it is an
octopus yet.
octopus.
It's an
Yeah,
octopus.
it's an octopus. This is part of the
That's
Great
my
Miniatures.
favorite dub. Let me read this.
Okay. We should set up the scene for context.
Sounds like a
No.
dog eating peanut butter.
It's worse. It's stickier. It's gross. So, a giant octopus comes crawling out of the sea, special effects alert, and overtakes this little hut full of narco berries while
Miniatures alert.
a woman and her child are inside. Good call, Jay.
Thank you.
And the tribe, as well as the 2 scientists, special effects alert, go and throw matches at this fucking octopus while it's trying to eat a lady.
It's a house.
A house
It
and
was
a
trying to
lady
eat
and a
the
kid.
house.
It wanted the
The whole-
narco berries.
Yes.
It wanted the
They called that
narco
out.
berries, and it was going to eat the smoking son and mom.
It doesn't sound like, like if someone were non-habit forming addicted to something, that they would be willing to risk the life of 2 people and crush a bunch of shit. That's so out of character.
Well, I mean,
And to get violent and unpredictable. and go out of your environment.
It's a lot of footage of an octopus moving.
It's too much.
It's
Making
too
that
much.
awkward noise. But it does also get the scene of him grabbing two of the Aboriginal guys and lifting them up. Special effects alert.
Really bad fake
throwing
tentacles.
them-
alert.
They're really good fake tentacles.
We also get to prompt King Kong out of the volcano
Okay.
to come down
Sure.
and have the octopus stick to his face, stick to his body, swinging it around,
Yeah.
do-si-do.
That fight could have been a lot better. We mostly
I
had
loved it.
Oh no, that was my favorite special effect when a man in a gorilla suit threw fake rocks at a screen someone had projected an octopus on.
Yeah. Listen, there's something I want to talk about really fast. I touched on in the elevator pitch, but when Godzilla and King Kong fight each other, have you not seen that same exchange in a bar with girls wearing ill-fitting clothing that have drank too much that are far more confident in their attractiveness than they should be?
I don't
Wait,
go
the-
to those bars anymore, but
Yeah, but think about it. Think back. Go back in the archives.
yeah.
You've seen that fight. It's a
I've
tale as
definitely
old
seen
as
that
time. You know, like them and their group start kind of like loudly start shit talking from across the room. There's a lot of those scenes where like Godzilla's like doing the suck my dick motion that like Fred Durst made really popular. Like, and I think it started
Godzilla
in WWF.
and Kong. There was a lot from both sides.
flexing.
No, you suck
Yeah.
my dick. You suck my dick.
Yeah, and then they separate, and you think it's done.
Yeah, and it's like,
but
whatever.
suddenly
I
one
don't
turns
time.
and rushes.
I'm a grown ass woman. I'm a grown. You fucking let go of my hair.
Well, no, first you get one of the bitches runs off and starts a fight with somebody else, who eventually drugs her, drags her back to the
Japanese
initial bitch that she was fighting, and then said,
That's
all right,
right.
hey, wake up, go fight that bitch.
That's right. Kong's hair gets set on fire. So he leaves, but then we have to drug him and bring him back.
I'm gonna put a new hair panel in.
And to be fair, when King Kong first woke up attached to the balloon rig, he didn't really do much until he saw Godzilla.
True.
And then it was
It's like,
immediately, let me out.
You
Let
got
me
her
out."
in the Uber, but she woke up before they drove off. And now she's jumping out of the fucking Uber. You've already paid for. You're not getting your money back.
I said shut your mouth.
Effectively hit her with the door while the car was still moving,
Yes.
jumped on her back.
Instead of chairs
Oh,
at the
man.
bar, it was boulders. It's that great fight you get to see when you go to the wrong bar.
That's where they drop King Kong from the helicopter, and we get the definitely not throwing a toy down a hill.
Yes. It's definitely not my son's toys. Wipe them off when you're done.
And then they connect, and it's definitely not two guys in rubber suits rolling down a hill.
Which is exactly what those two girls look like fighting. Listen, I need to know one thing. Juice, would you watch this again?
Oh, you know what?
Tell
This movie was a treat.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of sweets. I'm
What was that?
I
that
don't
was
know.
so
That was
cheesy.
a sick burn.
I'm actually really glad that I got to watch this. This movie was very decently done. And if I was 20 years younger, this goes into that category. I would watch it again. However, in my life, as of today, no, I don't think I'm going to sit down and be able to spend the time on this movie again. Sorry. It was like watching a historical documentary. Okay, cool. I got what it was. Let's go watch the next one. Jay, how about you?
Punch him in that stupid face.
Can I punch you in that stupid face while you watch
Jay
this
looks
movie
so
again?
upset by the fact that Juice doesn't want to watch.
I'm over here making pissy faces.
I think he's more upset that this was sweet and I don't like sweets.
No, I was upset that Juice doesn't want to watch this movie again. I'll come right out and say, absolutely, I'm going to watch King Kong versus Godzilla again. I have watched it many times in the past. I'm a huge fan of the kaiju movies. I've watched almost all of the Godzilla versus movies. I love them. They're great. That is the shit that I live for. That is my shitty cinema. Absolutely, I will be watching King Kong versus Godzilla again. Dave, would you watch it again?
You're a fucking whore.
That was such an enthusiastic.
Right?
Yeah.
I almost enjoyed watching Jay watch this movie more than watching the
It's
movie
so
itself.
good.
And it's a very important piece of the kaiju cinema. I also just learned the phrase suitmation in researching the movie, which is what they call it when they put a guy in a rubber suit and film him at a high frame rate and then just slow it down for the playback. There's some fantastic scenes in this movie. Unfortunately, the chop up of it slows it down way too much. And there's just extended sequences where nobody knows what the fuck is going on or going to happen next, and that take way too long to get there.
Kind of like this podcast.
Derailed, just like
Also-
that train.
So while I would go on YouTube and watch King Kong versus Godzilla again, as in the one fucking time that they actually do that for more than 2 minutes, I would not sit down and spend 90 minutes watching the English recut of this again. No.
Shame.
I do not accept your shame. Juice and I came into this pure. We
Yeah.
had no nostalgia. We were viewing back on it. We saw it for what it was.
Witch, he's a witch. Burn the witch. He's a witch.
Okay, the two people who defined their childhood by this, we got one left. Casey, you brought King Kong versus Godzilla upon us. Would you watch it again?
If there is something two drunks in a rubber suit have taught me, is that I need to start dressing for the job I want, not the job I have. So I will be getting on Amazon tonight, purchasing a suit, purchasing a fifth, and sitting down to watch this fucking movie again. Yes, I would absolutely watch this movie again. It was so good. It's got everything you want in a movie. It's got news. It's got maps. It's got drunks. Some are humans. Some are monsters. Maybe the moral of the story is, yes, that monster is a monster, but he's really just a very drunk man inside. Where you, the man you look up to on TV, is a very drunk man who's a monster on the inside. He's going to go home and beat the shit out of everyone in his household. The cat, the dog, the hamster, his wife, whoever. This movie started out with Shakespeare and was Shakespeare. It's beautiful. It's perfect. It has special effects. It's special in my heart. Fuck you, Dave. Fuck you, Juice. Yes, I'll watch this again forever.
Fuck you
Split
too.
decision on Godzilla versus King Kong.
King Kong versus Godzilla.
Split decision
like,
on King
75th
Kong versus
time.
Godzilla.
He's not a showstopper. Okay, if you're so fucking great, Dave, what are you bringing
I'm
next
just
week?
saying
What are you
the
bringing
name.
next week?
Look,
Yeah, Dave.
What are you
What are
bringing
you gonna
next
bring
week? Can you
next
say the
week?
name of what you're bringing next week?
I'm bringing Godzilla versus King Kong next week.
Are
I'll
you?
find it. No, I'm sure it
No.
exists, but I'll find it. Next week, I'm bringing Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yes. That sounds trashy.
It
Four scores.
is-
It will be shitty cinema.
It's really bad. I've seen it before. I don't even remember who plays Abraham Lincoln, but Carl Urban plays the vampire he fights against.
Yes.
And I really like Carl Urban.
I don't
So-
know who that is, but I'm assuming it's Keith Urban's cousin.
He was Dredd in the new remake of it
I
that they
didn't
just
watch the new
titled
one.
Dredd.
I don't watch new anything.
I enjoyed that.
Before we head out tonight, we want to give a shout out to Mina at @A_Mina on Instagram, who did our logo, getting the website up and running. She's a badass bitch.
So good. Mina spelled MENIA.
Also, if you like our podcast and want to support us and help us grow, donate to our Patreon under Shitty Cinema. Oh, P.S. Follow us on Twitter at @shitty_cinema.
Or don't, whatever.
Now let's shut out the lights and go be human again.
I've got toast ready.